Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so glad you could join me today as we continue our discipleship video series. If you were with us last week, you'll remember that I've started condensing our discipleship videos into 1 or 2 points as opposed to doing 3 points in the scripture all in the same video. So that's what I'm trying to continue to do this week and in the following weeks. So if you want to know my first point for the passage we're talking about, check out last week's video as well as the reading of the scripture. The scripture is found in 1 Timothy 5, 1-8. So if you want to go ahead and pause this video, go to last week's video, and you can get the context for what I'm going to be talking about today. So if you would, go ahead and turn back to that passage. I'm going to continue where I left off with point number 2. So point 2 is that serving our families involves godliness. We know that we are unable to serve our families in the right way without God. And so what does that mean for us to serve in a godly way? Does that mean we become divine? Well, no. I mean, we can't become divine. We're human. We're not God. But we do have an example, which is Jesus Christ. I mean, look no further for an example than Jesus Christ himself. And we can see throughout his life that from ages 3 to 33, Jesus is always living in a godly way, in a godly example. I think a good way that we can see this portrayed in his life is through respect. This is a good example of godliness. When you are showing people respect, that is a form of godliness. When Jesus was a kid, he was respectful of his parents. Now, of course, when he grew to be a grown man, his respect changed. And so we don't expect Jesus as an 8-year-old to have the same relationship with his parents when he was 30 years old. I mean, that changes, but we see that throughout his life, he still continues to show his parents respect and his friends and his other family members. So respect is a good way, I think, that we can apply godliness to our familial relationships. And then the final point I want to focus on is keeping God centered in our lives and in our relationships specifically. So what does that look like and what does that mean? Well, we know that God is supposed to be the center of everything we do. I mean, that's Christianity 101, but that's a lot easier said than done. And in addition, just because God is the center of everything we do and the center of our relationships, that also doesn't mean that everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows, because people are fallen and there is sin throughout the world. The world is broken. And so despite all that, we are still supposed to keep God in the center of everything we do, especially our familial relationships. Now, how do we do this? Well, I think a good way is to approach our relationships as an opportunity, not just for us to show God's love to others. I mean, of course, that is something about relationships that we should know, but we should also see relationships as an opportunity for us to grow in our own fruits of the Spirit. I think you and I, if we're honest with ourselves, we can look at the lists of the fruits of the Spirit and we can see, oh, I'm really good at that fruit of the Spirit, and I need to work on this fruit of the Spirit. And so all of these fruits can be shown in our relationships, or maybe a lack of fruits can be shown in our relationships. So notice that the fruits are not of man. The fruits come from the Spirit. And so ultimately, we know that we can try our best, we can do the best we can to show people respect and love and care, but ultimately our own flesh and blood is going to fall short. And eventually we're going to have to pull over for a pit stop, and the Spirit is going to have to empower us at some point. So we know that we can't do this alone, especially in those relationships that are more difficult than others. So that is my challenge for you this week. I want you to think about, of course, that fruit of the Spirit that you need to work on, but also think about some time this week that you can pause and, go to your pit stop, rest, and fill up from the Lord, because ultimately we're called to do an awful lot of things with our multiple relationships in our lives. We can't possibly serve all these people in a godly way, in the way that we're supposed to, if we're not filled by the Spirit. So that's my challenge for you this week, is to find time for you to be filled up. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on Sunday. Bye.